I was on a live yesterday and I was talking about how, you know, you guys know my spiel about marriage for women and how marriage for men and marriage for women are different things. I'm not encouraging men to be married, but I have the conversation around marriage with men differently than I have the conversation about marriage with women, right? So, my conversation about marriage with men is like this. You don't have anything to worry about as a man. You don't have anything to worry about. Like you don't like your woman more than likely isn't going to abuse you. Your woman more than likely isn't going to use you. You know what I mean? Like she's going to be better. She's going to add tons of value to your life. You don't really have to worry about much as a man in a relationship. That's pretty much my argument or whatever. That's my message to men, right? Because men like to act like marriage is such a risk for men, but in reality it's not. And so I like to correct the record. A major reason I want to do that though is not necessarily to encourage marriage. It's just to because all of those ideals are rooted in misogynistic thoughts about women and tropes about women. So that's really where I'm coming from with it. I couldn't care less if a man gets married or not. I'm not pushing marriage or whatever because ultimately I believe that the institution of marriage should be abolished even as a married man. I'm already married. I pay taxes. I can think of tons of institutions that, you know what I'm saying, like I contribute to or have contributed to that I think should be abolished, but I still contribute to them willingly because until they are abolished, what the fuck am I going to do? Also, um mar- if you want to be married in this system, I don't knock it. I'm saying this as men again, if you are a man and you know that you're going to show up for your wife and you know that you're not going to abuse your wife and you're going to be there for your wife, I don't mind you wanting to get married. Like I think it's okay. Um, but for the vast majority of men, I don't think any of you guys should be getting married, right? I don't think you guys deserve to be married. And most of you guys are going to fuck up that relationship and destroy that woman or abuse that woman to say the least. So no, I don't think most men should be married. And like I said, I think the institution of marriage should be abolished as a whole. I'm okay with them abolishing my marriage. I don't give a fuck. Me and my wife will be just fine. We're gonna keep on keeping on. It's okay, right? If there was some movement, some mass movement where like everybody was signing up and we were all gonna get divorced, you know what I'm saying? And we were gonna reject, I would do it. I would be like, yep, let's do it. Let's do it, babe. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like because we don't need it. I don't need that for my wife. Like I don't need my wife. Me and my wife are going to be together no matter what. I don't need a piece of paper to keep us together. I don't need a ring. I don't need any of that. I'm going to be there for her no matter what. On the flip side, I'm also not. I never was afraid of marriage, so it can go either way with me, right? Um, Moving forward though, I'm all for like I'm not going to tell my son to be married or to push marriage on him or you know or anything like that. I'm not going to do that with him, right? But I say all of that to say when I have conversations with women though, it's different because with women, because I get asked this, well, what's your solution for all the single women that may want to get married? Don't. Don't, because the complete opposite can be said or is said about women. You in danger, girl. You're in a relationship with a man, you're in danger more than likely of something, if not a lot. So no, don't get married. Fuck that. That's what I say. I said this yesterday in the live. The men's crashed out per the usual. Then today I come across this video that somebody
Historically happens. This is my scolding hot take, and you're either going to be ready to hear this or you're not going to be. Women historically have been slaves. I understand there's different forms of slavery, but women, in the true definition of the word, have been enslaved. Marriage was the act of making women property. Marriage was the way of exchanging women as property. Marriage was the property transfer of a woman between her father and her husband. Regardless of how you feel about it, that's the fact. That was the origination, the original purpose of marriage as a
100%. There's no denying that. And so how can something that comes from this, that was birthed from this idea, be good? You know what I'm saying? For every party involved. How could this be good for women if it came from this. You could try to hide it. You could try, you know what I mean? Like you try to change all you, but at its core, though, at its core, it leads to the oppression of women, right? Mrs., which is Mr. is his, right? That's what Mrs. is. It's just Mr. with his on the, you know what I mean? Mrs. is his, right? So changing of the last name, all of these things, like it's all oppressive in nature. It's just psychological warfare on women, to say the least. You know what I mean? And at worst, it's actual restrictions for women. It's very restrictive for women, or it can be. So again, this is a major reason why I am like totally like, no, marriage as an institution should be abolished. I am 43. I've been married for 14 years. I didn't know any of this 14 years ago. I knew what marriage was. I knew, like, you know, when I got married, what would happen or whatever, but I didn't know the history of marriage. I had no idea. I didn't look it up. I didn't investigate it. My wife didn't either. But now we know, and I think now neither one of us would give a fuck about being married right now.
Construct. The reason why you see divorce rates rise is because women finally have agency over whether or not we stay in these marriages. The reason why you're seeing marriage rates and birth rates decline is because for the first time in human history, women have had more agency than we've ever had on whether or not we get married in the first place and whether or not we decide to have children. There is a reason why women have been socially conditioned into believing that if we don't have children, or if we're not married, or a man didn't choose us, that's like the biggest insult to our identity or our value as human beings.
Facts. And we continue to perpetuate that in society nowadays. It hasn't stopped. That is why little girls are growing up and they still want to be married. But even with all of that, with the Disney movies and all these other movies or whatever, these shows, women are still rejecting it in droves, which shows you that the threat of being married is more powerful than the benefit, than the allure, than the propaganda surrounding marriage. That's how terrible marriage has been historically for women, that you can't even brainwash them into it anymore. Like, we're still able to brainwash people into believing in racism and still, doing things that ultimately hurt them. You know what I'm saying? Buying into stuff like I said, like racism, like sexism, like capitalism, like consumerism. Like we're still able to propagandize people into participating in these institutions, right? In these practices. But marriage, women are like, nope, it's too terrible. Marriage is too terrible for women historically and currently.
I personally disagree with the entire construct of marriage. I believe that marriage signifies the ownership of women, and I disagree with it as a concept as a whole.
I just want to I agree. I 100%. And the reason why I like to do this because I'm a married man. So I'm not some bitter single man who's like, oh, I agree. No. As a married man, I agree with her. She's objectively correct. Like, she is telling an objective truth. This is a fact. You can be mad at it all you want to. And logically, if you know that about marriage, how can you then turn around and say, but I'm married, so it's good for me? Like, that's crazy. Like, that's cognitive dissonance, which I try to make sure I don't practice. I try to make sure I don't practice cognitive dissonance.
And I disagree with it as a concept as a whole. And if you're not new to my page, you know that I have no intention of ever getting married. I relish in the idea of being single. I do not want to have any children. And I relish in the idea that for the first time, I'm one of the first generations of women who have the freedom to not participate in any of those things. So to me,
I think millennials were maybe even Gen Xers. I think Gen Xers. I would say millennials. Yeah, I would say millennials were the first group of people millennial, because I was 18 in 2000. Like marital rate just went away in 93. So you could say, because that to me is like, like a huge thing, like women being protected in marriages and outside of marriage. But yeah, I think that's a huge thing. So yeah, that being like one of the last vestiges of like just like overt abuse, in a marriage for men is, I mean, that it went away in the mid 90s or whatever is, like, I think that would signal that millennials were like really the first generation that was able to do that. And women could go to college and women could have jobs and well-paying jobs and they could buy land and all this. So I would say millennials, first generation. I think that Gen Z would be, I don't know if she's Gen Z. She looks pretty freaking young. And I forget the age groups, but I believe she's Gen Z. I think Gen Z would be the second, but Gen Z is like kicking the door down on this shit. And they're like, nope, we're out. We are out. Especially when you look at the economy, you look at the landscape, they're like, nope, we're done. We're out.
Not only is it not an insult to my identity and does not dictate my worthiness as a human being, it is a privilege that I get to choose not to get married. Fact. It is a privilege that I get to choose not to have children. And
I won't say privilege. I won't say privilege. It's a right that they stripped away that you now have. So I won't say it's a privilege. I don't think it's a privilege, right? It's almost like at that point, because who are you thanking for it, right? I don't think it's a privilege. I think it's your right. I think it's for lack of a better, your nature given right? Let's put it like that. I won't say God, nature given right.
I get to choose not to have children. And I believe that as a woman, you should avoid getting married. You should avoid having children. I think if you are even remotely on the fence about any of those concepts, you need to avoid it. Marriage benefits men, and having children benefits the patriarchy. I'm not saying that no one should have
and capitalism
children, or that's where it gets kind of like muddy. Like, I think that marriage does have protections for women who do want to have children, or for women who are with a partner who's great. There are legal protections around that marriage works in favor for. But as a general concept, I think marriage represents the enslavement of women. I think marriage represents, and this is just the way it is. This isn't my opinion. This is what it's been historically. Marriage represents the ownership of property that is women. Yep. Marriage is a huge deal.
Hence the dowries, right? Why would you need to pay to have a wife? Why would you need to pay the father to get his daughter? Like, that's wicked. That's crazy.
This is just the way it is. This isn't my opinion. This is what it's been historically. Marriage represents the ownership of property that is women. Yep. Marriage is a huge deal, and especially as a woman, if you are at all on the fence about getting married, you need to not get married. Fuck the soft life shit. Fuck the not doing anything with your life. Fuck not making your own money. You need to make your own money. That is a privilege. That is a blessing that you live in a time where you can make your own money and you can make something out of your own life. Do not trade this privilege that women have fought for a G-Wagon or for trips to Erewhon. You are worth so much more than that. Your life is worth so much more than that. You live in a time unlike any other in human history. There are women before you who would have given anything to be able.
There were women before you that gave their lives so that you can have this right, not privilege. So you can have this right restored, that you can have your, choose your own destiny, right? Absolutely.
Able to have the opportunities that you have today. They would have given anything. If you marry a rich man, your life will be controlled by him. Your quality of life is going to be dictated by that man. Your relationship may look a certain way today, but it could be very different 10 years from now. It could be very different after you have 4 of his children. It's not worth the Chanel bags. It's not worth the Cartier bracelets. It's not worth the fancy vacations. This is your one life. This is your independence. This is your autonomy. Please.
I know they hate her. I know the red pillars hate her because she looks like a gold digger. She looks like, you know what I mean? Like, she looks the part. There's no shade to her at all. She looks like she would, fit in that mold. And she's like so woke and she's so intelligent. And she's like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just like, I know they're like, fuck, like lost another one. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad. Y'all punch the air all day long. She's out on you motherfuckers. I love that. I love that for her.
Independence. This is your autonomy. Please just think very long and hard before you enter these contracts, because getting out of marriage, going through a divorce, is a fucking grueling process. Co-parenting with somebody who is being difficult, who is trying to control you, is a all-consuming process.
And it's crazy. It's not even the wealthy men. It's the poor men too. Working class men try to control women all the time. I mean, some would say they're even worse.
You need to really understand what you're signing up for when you do that. This is not something that you do unless you are absolutely sure. Again, it's super nuanced, and there are legal protections that work in women's favor when it comes to marriage. But if I were to give you any kind of advice, avoid getting married, make your own money, do your own thing with your life. Do not put all your eggs in the basket of a man. Because once you get married and once you have those children, everything is different. You do not have that same freedom anymore. You will not have that same opportunity anymore. You can still make it happen. And there are women who their children are like the best thing. It's like, I totally understand. I respect that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be very hard and it's going to be very different. Being single and childless is a fucking flex. Okay? It is. It's much better than being in a grueling divorce, being in an unhappy marriage, being controlled by a man, or having to co-parent with someone who's fucking crazy. Please just take this seriously.
All the shit that I see every day, there's no way in hell that I can go against anything she's saying. All the stories I see from women talking about how terrible, I got a story coming up. This woman got cheated on while she was pregnant. And, she got cheated on and her husband divorced her while she was pregnant with their second child. Like, what you want me to say, fellas? How can I defend us when that shit is happening on the regular? Everything this young lady said is 100% right. I wholeheartedly support her message, like 100. Now let's listen to Granny, because Granny be telling on y'all. Granny be telling on the old men's. Let's listen to Granny talk again. Exactly what she was talking about, wealthy men trying to control you. Doesn't matter. Rich or poor, doesn't matter. Listen to this. Look, control tactics some men used on women. Most men.
So even though your husband was trying to stop you from working, you knew that even when you did do work and you earned that money, you made a difference not only in your life, but your mom's and your parents' life.
I got my job. He come up there that morning. Oh, he went to work. Walked in there in front of my mama. And she never said a harm word to him. She always was nice. And walked in there, pointed a finger in my face, said, "You go to work this evening, you get napped." And I mean it. Said, "You better stay home and save them kids. You better not go to work."
Why was it such an issue for you to go to work?
To control me, I guess.
Mm.
Something I could figure out.
Mm.
I didn't go nowhere. 2 babies, I couldn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
Hear that again. What she say? What she say?
For you to go to work.
Oh, hold on.
Why was it such an issue for you to go to work?
To control me, I guess. Something I could figure out.
Mm.
I didn't go nowhere. 2 babies, I couldn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
I would get up early in the morning, wash the apples. I had 3 big long lines of apples, and they didn't have disposable apples. I had to wash them.
Yeah.
So I had to have a 5-gallon can with detergent and pine salt and stuff like that in it. And I rinsed my dappers out. When the babies used them, I rinsed them out and put
Put pine salt in there? I don't know about that one.
them in there and soak them. Then the next morning, I had to get up and wash them out and rinse them again and hang them on the line before I go to work. So I was up real early. So one day I was out there hanging on the line, and the girl had a baby down the street from me. And she saw me out there, and I was out there crying. She said, "Griff, what's wrong with you?" I said, "Every time I go to sleep, one baby wake me up crying. Every time I go to sleep, the other baby wake me up crying."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I ain't had no sleep. I had to get up early on and wash these clothes. And I'm so tired, so sleepy." She said, "Vera," said, "her oldest son was named Tony." She said, people say, they get their nights and days mixed up. Said they'll probably never do it no more.
So one would wonder, why wouldn't her husband help her?
In the middle of the night. You had to do it. So what you're saying is when you had these babies, it wasn't no help getting up with you in the middle of the night. You had to do it by yourself. He didn't offer at all to get up with the babies in the middle of the night?
He told me he gonna marry me. He let me have my babies before we married. But then he come back to marry me and said, let's go get married. And so I said no. So he kept talking me into it.
Hold on, wait. So they love to talk about the marry before you carry shit. She said that he let me have my babies before we got married. So she already had the kids. They already had the kids together, and then he wanted to marry her. Or he probably, I guess he wanted to marry her before, but she didn't want to marry him.
Mama walking down the street. I said, Mama. I said, I had to work half the day. He said, I was looking for you at home. And she said, I was just walking up down the streets. I didn't want to go home because I didn't know what to do. She said, I paid all the bills I could pay. And so I didn't have enough money to get some more groceries I need and enough money to pay the rest of the bills. So she said, I was trying to think what to do and how to pay them. So I couldn't think. So I didn't know what to do. So she said, I just walked them down one street to another. And that's how I found her. And I said, here, Mama, you take my whole check.
Damn.
I said, that's what I was looking for you for, to give it to you because you takes care of me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you take the whole check. I said, what I don't need, I buy what the babies need and what they don't need. I let you have the rest of it.
That's crazy. It's just a nightmare being married. I mean, and I know that's an old relationship, but just, I mean, it ain't that far off from what's happening right now, man. And that's what that young lady was talking about. She was just saying historically, that's what marriage was like for women. And that was at a time when women were starting to be able to work and starting to be able, to have some autonomy. Now, mind you, I know the whole idea of the nuclear family, that's a relatively like new concept. Women had been, before the advent of capitalism, women had been contributing, right? It wasn't like the woman just stayed at home and took care of the, like the women would work. The women worked. But yeah, in the modern age, quote unquote, definitely in the industrial age, women had just now started to be able to work, right? Like to have gainful employment. I won't say work because Black women specifically were always working, but women were working. They were doing stuff, other women sometimes, but Black women were definitely working. So that's it. It's just always interesting, and I love to tie in these stories when we can, to give validity to what people are talking about in modern times, and just kind of pull that line, draw that line, and connect that dot between the old and the new, because I don't want to leave any room for some idiot to get up here and talk about back in the day, our great great grannies was they hated your great great granddaddy too, nigga. They hated her too. Okay. The women's been hating the men's because of how we treat them. And marriage 100% is and always has been about the control of women. No doubt about it.